playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Hey everybody, welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman, pleased to be filling in for Craig Mish today. We got you for the next 90 minutes, and I'm not going to waste time blabbering because we have so much to get to during this show, and maybe most especially in this opening segment as we take you round and round the world of sports. There was no bigger story last night than, of course, the trade that shook the NFL world. Micah Parsons, after the stalemate with Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, would they work it out, or would this be just another CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott kind of situation? No, Micah Parsons actually dealt, traded away the superstar to the Green Bay Packers, instantly Super Bowl contenders there in Green Bay. The specifics are on your screen. Dallas gets 2 first-rounders in 26 and 27, likely both picks that will be in the 20s, and Pro Bowl defensive tackle Kenny Clark, whereas Parsons goes solo to the Packers and gets himself a hefty deal. 4 years, $188 million, $136 million guaranteed. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL in terms of average annual value. $47 million per year. Jerry Jones, you cannot be serious letting this happen. Well, he said the marriage just wasn't meant to be.
There's no question that I could have signed him in April. And so we all know that to have agreements, all parties have to agree. But this was by design. I did make Mike an offer. It wasn't acceptable, and I honor the fact that it wasn't done in the way that he wanted to do it through an agent. So he was made an offer. There's not an ounce of vindictiveness. There's no bad feelings on my part about the fact that we didn't come together on an agreement.
Jerry Jones had the gall to say he believes the Cowboys after this trade could be better than they have been the entire time that they had Micah Parsons. Absolutely insane when you consider what this guy, as an individual, I suppose, has done out there on the field to help his team. 3 All-Pros, 4 Pro Bowl selections, Defensive Rookie of the Year, 52.5 sacks in 4 years. He is the only player other than the legend, the late, great Reggie White, to have at least a dozen sacks in each of his first 4 seasons, 9 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries. Incredible Dallas tenure for Micah Parsons, but now he will be wearing green in Green Bay, and I'm not so sure the Dallas fans are going to recover from this one. We'll see. We will see. Well, something that will not shock my fellow degenerates out there who may be watching or listening, the NFL is expected to see roughly $30 billion wagered on the season this year across U.S. sports books, up 8.5% from $27.5 billion last year. That is according to the American Gaming Association. It includes individual games. It includes futures. Legal sports betting, as you know, is across 38 states right now, plus Washington, D.C. So who knows? Maybe as more states come in, that much more will be wagered. It could get to $32 billion. I don't know. What's even crazier, too, is that number is just betting. It doesn't include predictive markets. It doesn't include sweepstakes. It doesn't include daily fantasy sports. We love to bet NFL. It is by far the most bet on sport across the country here in the U.S. Sticking with football, let's talk about the New York Jets, because if we don't do it now, when will we justify doing that? Honestly, we got to get it all in before the season starts and everything goes to hell. Justin Fields is the new quarterback replacing Aaron Rodgers. There are people that are actually high on this team going into the season, not in terms of winning a Super Bowl or even making the playoffs as a wild card team, but over 5.5 wins. There are people that are taking that notion seriously. I'm not sure that I am one of them, but I'll tell you what, as it relates to Fields coming off of an up and down tenure with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Darren Muji, the general manager, believes that we could see another, Baker Mayfield, Tampa renaissance, maybe a Sam Darnold, Minnesota renaissance. How's this going to go?
Yeah, I would say the operation. I've seen it improve every day, and specifically this past week, I think we've really seen good rhythm out at practice with the offense, a balanced attack, some run, some pass, but just the overall operation, the command, his leadership, obviously named a captain, as many of you found out this morning. So seeing that growth has been really good.
We've seen in the league the last few years, quarterbacks, when they get to their third stop, sometimes it blossoms for them. You know the names, obviously.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if you've seen enough of Justin to believe he can be one of those guys.
I do believe Justin can be one of those guys. And I like I just mentioned, I've seen the progress during this camp and look forward to seeing the progress throughout the season as they all come together. Obviously, it's his third stop in 3 years with 3 different coordinators and a lot of moving parts, so it does take time. But I like where it's at, and I look forward to watching the progress.
All right, let's stay in the AFC East. Tyreek Hill back at practice after he was sidelined for a few weeks due to an oblique injury. That is good news. The expectation is the once disgruntled wide receiver who had asked out of Miami following last year is back, tail between his legs and all, is expected to play week 1 here coming up against the Colts. Meanwhile, his teammate, running back Jalen Wright, he had a procedure on his leg. He is expected to miss multiple weeks. That running back room suddenly getting crowded. The Dolphins signed veterans Jeff Wilson, JaMychal Hasty, added them to the roster to supplement Devon Achane, of course, who is dealing with a calf injury in his own right, even though he is expected to play here in the season opener. And then you have rookie Ollie Gordon the second as well. So something to think about there. As we go over to Tampa, Chris Godwin, can't wait to see him back on the field, but it's going to be a little while, at least week 5, maybe longer. Adam Schefter of ESPN did say October sounds about right. You'll remember that Godwin was having an incredible year last year, almost 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, 50 catches through 6+ weeks. He got injured in week 7, sidelined him for the rest of the year, the fractured ankle. So eager to see what we get from Godwin when he does return and what he looks like. At the college ranks, we saw college football last night, and we saw an exciting win out of Nebraska. Didn't cover the 5.5, but did eke out the win under Matt Rule to start off 1-0, a 20-17 win over Cincinnati at Arrowhead, the inaugural Kansas City Classic. Even Taylor Swift was there. Why? Because obviously her now fiance, Travis Kelce, wanted to take in the game. Let's work in a little bit of baseball before we run out of time here in this opening segment. Phillies, another historic night. out of Kyle Schwarber, who has been incredible, approaching 50 home runs on the year. He hit 4 of them last night, drove in 9 runs, the 21st 4-homer game in Major League Baseball history. But the crazy thing, we have seen 3 of them this year. Nick Kurtz, of course, George's nephew, and Eugenio Suarez much earlier in the year back in April. 3 of them already. So when did the 4-home run game become easy? This is incredible. But Philadelphia walloped Atlanta 19-4. Meanwhile, Yankees clobbered the White Sox. That was a 10-4 win, 5th straight win for Frank's New York Yankees. Bellinger, Chisholm, Grisham, all with home runs in that one. Meanwhile, the Red Sox, 7-1 on the road. Hell of a trip, swept the Baltimore Orioles in 4 games. Garrett Crochet wasn't quite himself yesterday, but the A's still did do enough to help Boston to another win. 3.5 back of the Toronto Blue Jays for first in the American League East. Yes, Frank, ahead of the Yankees still right now. We'll be back.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
The Young Goddard up angle too had the added PR campaign of like, do you want to take a New York and or a Jersey guy to play a New York Ryder Cup? Like the crowd juice there is going to be off the charts.
They would love. They would kill for him.
Chris Goddard like making a big putt, like popping the chain to the Bethpage crowd. Are you kidding me? There's some of these guys I just want to pick them because I want the visual, I want the memory.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Pages. Let's get lucky.
Back here on NewsWire, Adam Kaufman with you, and not alone. We've got guests coming up here throughout the show, and let us bring in our first, one of the favorites here around the program, and that is Bill Bender of Sporting News on Twitter at BillBender92. Bill, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. As you can see, it's covered up a little bit, but that Packers helmet in the background is there. I'm excited. We don't have to talk NFL. I'm almost as excited about college football. It's going to be a great day today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, you got to be pretty geeked up, obviously, about what's happening there in Green Bay. Micah Parsons and just instant Super Bowl contender off of what was already a very good team. But you had it at a position like that with a player like that, it's going to really open things up. But obviously, we don't want to bore people with NFL right now. You're here to chat a little bit of college, and let's get into it here because we got an incredible game on the way Saturday afternoon, noon Eastern. It's number 1 Texas, number 3 Ohio State. We've seen these teams not a lot head to head, quite frankly. It's a 2-2 series, only one meeting dating back to 2008. And, it was pretty recently there in January of 24. Ohio State topped Texas, doubled them up 28-14 in the college football playoff semifinal. But what do we get now and all the hype surrounding, obviously, Arch Manning there for Texas?
Well, I think that's one of the storylines. Arch's debut as a full-time starter going into a stadium where the Buckeyes haven't lost an opener since 1999. As Steve Sarkisian pointed out this week, 32 players from that Cotton Bowl you mentioned were in NFL camps this summer. So who are going to be these new stars? Is it going to be Julian Sayin? Is it going to be Kenyatta Jackson? Is it going to be Colin Simmons, the sophomore edge rusher from Texas? It's crazy to think that many guys went to the NFL, and there's probably 7, 8 first rounders on this field Saturday. I love games where you have that much NFL talent on the field. I don't think it's going to not meet expectations. It's going to be a fantastic game and could end up being a little bit of a defensive game early when you consider these new quarterbacks.
So it sounds like you might be thinking under 47.5, maybe something a little lower scoring. But with this game essentially a pick 'em, who wins it?
Well, it's hard for me to go against Ohio State here, and not just because I live in the backyard. Having the home field advantage, having the noon kickoff, an experienced defense with Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, I think, and then Jeremiah Smith on the other end. He only had 1 catch for 3 yards last year against Texas. I think they'll change that in the first series. New coordinators Brian Hartline and Matt Patricia add another wrinkle to that, but it's hard for me to go against the Buckeyes at home. I still remember that instant classic in 2005 when Vince Young and the Longhorns came into Ohio Stadium and won, and it took everything they had in a Lima Swede late touchdown to get that victory.
We have another close spread, a field goal favorite, 3.5 to be technical, between Clemson and LSU, with Clemson at home, the favored team here. Again, it's a matchup of a couple of top 10 teams here entering the season. This one is Saturday night. What's the right way to look at this game?
Who's feeling more pressure? Clemson, who lost to 3 SEC teams last year, or LSU with Brian Kelly and another opener? And shockingly, the Tigers have lost 5 straight openers, and sometimes in spectacular fashion. I'm going against the grain here. I think a lot of people are going to pick Clemson and just assume that Death Valley or Death Valley Junior, however you want to put it, they're going to get this home win. I think LSU at least covers. And this is my candidate. Here's my bold prediction for the weekend. This will end in some weird, controversial fashion. LSU may be able to go in there and pull out the win, or they're going to lose really close by maybe a last-second field goal. But I think the ending of this game is something we're going to be talking about on Sunday morning.
Notre Dame, the number 6 team, is a 2.5-point favorite going into Miami to face the 10th-ranked Hurricanes. I don't think it's a surprise, obviously, that Notre Dame is favored. But one thing that did catch me off guard a little bit, Bill, is I was looking at betting splits at a particular book, and I know a lot of people kind of scoff at betting splits, saying, they only tell you so much of the story because they don't factor in as line moves, the splits don't move accordingly. So you're seeing, you might see a week's worth of splits that don't represent the number that you're sitting at. All that being said, I am seeing Notre Dame as an overwhelming betting favorite. Overwhelming. For such a close spread, inside a field goal, does that surprise you?
Well, I think with the spread being that close, you're just going to go ahead and say, okay, Notre Dame will win a close one. I do think this game will be close. I mean, history shows Miami's won the last 6 home meetings against Notre Dame. It's a misleading stat because they obviously don't play every year. They haven't played in Miami since 2017. But to me, the point stands. That Notre Dame's had a rough history at Miami. New quarterback, CJ Carr. Miami has really good edge rusher in Ruben Bain. They have good players on both sides of the line. And then I don't know what we'll get in Carson Beck's debut, but I look at Notre Dame. I think they return enough talent from that national title team last year. I watched them go into Texas A&M and win a game there last year. I think Jeremiah Love makes enough plays in the running game to get them going, and I just trust Marcus Freeman a little more. So to your point, it is going to be a tight game, but if it's going to be a tight one, do you take Miami? Do you take Notre Dame? I think I'm going to go with the Irish here.
Bill, I don't know if you're aware of this. There's another Bill, Chapel Bill Belichick, who's, he's a new head coach at the college ranks in North Carolina, has this influential girlfriend. It's led to a lot of off-season talk. Apparently, there's actually going to be a game played there at UNC coming up. So that's nice. We could talk real football concerning the Tar Heels, and I couldn't be more excited. I'm a Patriots guy. I'm in New England. I've rooted on Belichick for decades at this point, and I am rooting for his success at North Carolina as well. I'm curious, big picture, what you think of this team throughout the season, but also how we should look at this debut here against TCU.
High level curiosity. I didn't cut off my sleeves on my pullover. So that's the difference between us two. I'm so curious to see what they do Monday. He talked at ACC kickoff about how they're going to run this like a pro program. What does Gio Lopez look like? And I will say this, I don't know if they'll win because it's so hard to predict when you have 70 transfers. But if they pull this out on Monday night, and because of the lag between Saturday to Monday, on Tuesday morning, we're going to talk about the Chapel Bill phenomenon, which makes this game so interesting. Much like Bill Walsh way back in the day at Stanford, I think it's going to be really cool to see. And the Tar Heels are going to hang around here.
Bill Bender, once again from Sporting News on Twitter at Bill Bender 92. I think you're absolutely right. I think Tuesday could be all about Bill Belichick, even if it's a close game, even if it's, they cover the number and it's a field goal loss, 3.5-point favorites TCU. But how much fun would it be to see Belichick win? Bill, thank you.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Our thanks once again to Bill Bender of Sporting News. You can check him out weekly here on NewsWire, maybe even multiple times a week throughout this football season. So should be a lot of fun. There's plenty more college and NFL football talk to come throughout this program. We got you a while longer here. It is time for our SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, so we have Georgia Tech at Colorado on the horizon here. Obviously, a brand new season for Deion Sanders, the healthy Deion Sanders. You love to see that. But it's going to be a new look Buffalo's team. His son, Shador, obviously gone to Cleveland. Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner, is gone as well. You know, looking to make a name for himself, maybe playing both sides of the field there in Jacksonville. We will see when that gets started coming up here in a little bit. But as far as Deion and these Buffs go, roster depth, he knows, is going to have to be incredibly important when you lose stars.
Curious, what's something about this team that maybe makes them unique and different from some of the other teams that you've coached in your career?
Depth. I think the tremendous amount of depth that we had at darn near every position, even special teams and the kickers. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the staff that was able to go out and assemble that depth that we have. And that's pretty much the difference, that if this guy goes down, we ain't breaking glass in case of emergency, we straight. Because that other guy already felt like he should have been there anyway, so he already has an attitude. He can't wait to get out there and show the world that he can do his thing. But depth is the key.
Auburn and Baylor, that's a fun matchup, obviously, that we've got in store for us coming up this week. And Hugh Freeze, the Auburn head coach, he's just ready to finally face a talented team.
Yeah, we're excited. It's finally here, and our kids are excited, and I know our fans are, and we're ready to obviously still work to do, but excited that at the end of this week, it's not a scrimmage or a mock game or anything. It's where you really get tested, and I know everyone's feeling that way, and so are the opponents, and I know Baylor will be extremely excited, and Coach Aranda will have his team ready to compete at a high level. And just watching games from that kicked off in the early week, it's a reminder, a stark reminder that mistakes cost you in these games, and hopefully we can play as mistake free and clean on things that we do to ourselves in game one that give us the best chance to win against a very talented team.
Well, like he said, two talented teams that are getting ready to go head-to-head. Tonight, coming up in, as we sit here, about 7 hours, we are going to see the number 12 team in the country, Illinois, taking on Western Illinois. So maybe not quite as much talent on the other side there for Illinois head coach Brett Bielema, but I'll tell you what, he's looking forward to building on last year and starting strong.
I appreciate it, and obviously it's there, it's buzzed about, it's talked about. I think since we've come back to fall camp, we've really tried to have our players focus on the now, and it's great chatter from the outside world. I think because it's so new to Illinois, it's really created more buzz than it really is. But obviously, you earn your expectations, and we've done a lot of really good things, kept a lot of really good players, got a lot of good coaches coming back. But every opportunity is a new one to kind of earn for our respect this year, right? I know that obviously Bob a hard time about our preseason rankings, right? But it was brought to my attention there were several that didn't even rank us, right? So I think our success is temporary in people's eyes, right? So I think for us to go out there and prove it this week against Western Illinois is the first step, and hopefully gaining some respect that, Josh and I got together the first time ever we talked about sustainable success, and I think this is a big step in the right direction, but obviously this year is a big part of that.
So there's a lot to prove, a lot of respect to be gained for Illinois if this team wants to vault itself into the national championship conversation, obviously. But we do have odds for those teams going into this new year. I know the year is just barely underway, but a lot of the real action coming up for you this weekend. Texas, who we talked about, there's Arch Manning, the first-time, full-time starting quarterback. Texas at the top of the board, understandably so, at plus 550. Georgia, perennially in the conversation, obviously, the Bulldogs, plus 650. Ohio State there. Again, Bill Bender's backyard at 7-1. Then you have Penn State plus 750, Alabama plus 950, even without Nick Saban. Doesn't matter. Alabama's going to keep being in that conversation. Could all of those teams, well, not all of them, but could a good collection of that grouping wind up in the college football playoff? We will find out. We got a lot of season ahead of us first. We're going to come back. It'll be time for our legal sports report. Stay tuned on NewsWire.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Back on NewsWire, it's time for our legal sports report, and for that, we are welcomed in by a regular contributor to the program, Sam McQuillan, on Twitter at Sam_McQuillan from LSR. How are you, Sam?
Doing well. How about yourself, Adam?
Good. Here we bring you here to help make us smarter and to fill us in on all the things, obviously, that are happening across the betting world, the gaming world, casino, and the like. How about something that at least you and I have not discussed in a little while, something that's a little bit closer to the DFS streets, not DFS, peer-to-peer. FanDuel has a new product that it's launching here, FanDuel Picks, in states where, obviously sports betting, legal sports books are not offered. So it's a nice way to try and corner the market in another area that you are not already attempting to dominate. And as we know, there are a dozen states that are still chasing that legalization potentially anyway. So tell us just, a little bit about FanDuel Picks and what this brings to that community.
Yeah, definitely. FanDuel Picks is one of these pick-em peer-to-peer games. It's the same thing basically that DraftKings has with their product, DraftKings Pick 6. And it's the same product that companies like Underdog Fantasy and Prize Picks have moved to in states where they faced a lot of regulatory pressure last year to change their product from something that doesn't look as much like sports betting as it once was. But to your point, it is still a product that very closely resembles parlays. It's going to allow users to select between 3 to 6 athletes and whether or not they will go over or under a given stat projection in return for a larger payout. So it's basically getting a parlay product to states like Texas, states like Georgia, just in time for football season, where we know there's a huge appetite to bet on this kind of stuff, to participate in these kind of games. And now it looks like FanDuel is basically just using the same model that DraftKings did and Underdog Fantasy and Prize Picks did as well. It's kind of ironic when you think about it. FanDuel and DraftKings were part of the sports betting groups that got states to kind of crack down on this form of DFS that was Pick'em DFS that used to function in a player versus house model. Now it's switched to peer-to-peer, but these were sports books that were behind this big kind of push, or not necessarily behind it, but adding fuel to the fire, making states aware of this kind of thing and kind of calling for, we want the rules to be equal. If we have to pay taxes, so do they. So that turned into those companies figuring out how to kind of get away with it or how to satisfy those concerns in states. And now it looks like FanDuel and DraftKings are just saying, okay, it's a great playbook for us to follow. If we can't be in Texas next year, year after that, Georgia, we might as well be in there right now, get those customers and serve them that product that, again, looks very close to a parlay, which we know how popular those are.
Yeah, Sam, I believe the expression is if you can't beat them, join them, right? But, I'm looking here, and FanDuel Picks is going to be available in 17 states. Now, obviously, that's, we're not even talking about half. We're ballpark a third right here. So why the limitation? Why not just, chase more money elsewhere?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Notably, they're not going to be in states like California, where DraftKings is with their product and where Underdog Fantasy and Prize Picks are with their product. Now, that could be any number of reasons. It could be because FanDuel is negotiating a deal with the tribes to get sports betting legalized in California, to get sports betting legalized in some of these other states, and launching a product that, again, looks very similar to sports betting in those states could perhaps piss off regulators, piss off tribes, put them in bad faith with sports betting decision makers. So yeah, it's a good question why these 17 states, again, all states where FanDuel does not have a sports book, but again, they're not doing all of the states. So you'd have to think that this product definitely isn't as popular in a state where I am, like New York, where we already have sports betting. I can bet on FanDuel right now. I don't really have an incentive to go play this Pick'em game, which is kind of a workaround. So that's a part of it as well. But definitely good to note that they're not in every state at once. And it could be because, there's a bunch of things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about yet.
Yeah, not in my state, Massachusetts. That being said, I bet, I gamble, I play DFS, but I also use Prize Picks, so I'm into the peer-to-peer thing. I want to, play around with, like you said, parlays of a different form and invest in different ways. It's surprising to me that it's not more available elsewhere. But let's take a look at, we mentioned earlier in the show, Sam, the fact that there's an expectation, according to the AGA, that we're going to see north of $30 billion across regulated sports books wagered on the NFL this coming season. And, it's an increase of 7.5%, I believe we said, maybe 8.5%. Yeah. It's, it's a big number, obviously, but just regulatory betting in general is it's spiking across the board. Football obviously is always going to be a catalyst. It's always going to lead to more and more because football is king, and that is by far the most popular bet that or sport that we all like to wager on. But across the board, we're seeing here an increase here for 2025 up 9.5% from 2024. Are you surprised that the number has jumped that much? Would you have thought maybe it would be even higher than that? How do you view it?
So if you look at how much the numbers projected to jump, we're expecting $164 billion in total handle. Again, that's how much money was bet on sports for the year. About a 10% jump on the year sounds like a lot, but it's actually less than in past years where it's grown a lot more. Now, on the flip side of that, you have revenue, which is expected to go up 17%. So you kind of have to wonder, okay, why is revenue outpacing the handle growth? And we can turn the reason really that we've been getting is that, again, parlays. People like betting these higher margin bets for the sports books, these lottery tickets, these bets that allow you to participate in player narratives. And in turn, sportsbooks have really pushed it down everyone's throat. Whether people like doing it before sportsbooks started marketing them heavy, or whether sportsbooks marketed them heavy first, and then people like doing that. Like that's neither here or there. People are betting these higher margin bets, and it's allowing sportsbooks to basically squeeze more money out of their customers. But as a result, as a cost, people are betting less. People are betting $10 on a parlay versus multiple $5 bets. And we've seen those concerns voiced on Wall Street, which has talked about, we're kind of concerned about handle growth. Now, sportsbooks only started ratcheting up these parlays when everyone was concerned about when they'll be profitable. So it's kind of a give or take situation. From a betting standpoint, it seems like the appetite is obviously increasing. You're going to have, I think, upwards of at least 40 billion. I think our projections go past the AGA's numbers there if you include parlays as well as future bets to be bet in the NFL this season. So it's going to be a big season for them regardless. Last year, they got absolutely hammered on the NFL. There was 10 weeks where you had at least 75% of favorites winning their games. And if you know anything about sports betting or sports in general, that's pretty unlikely. And the public tends to bet favorites. So that resulted in sportsbooks getting absolutely hammered. I think FanDuel lost over $600 million just because it was a weird luck year that way. So it'll be really interesting to see how they do this NFL season. Obviously, people are betting a lot more, but will the sportsbooks kind of come out on that better side of, okay, maybe they got hammered last year, now they'll recoup some of that this year. So it'll be a make or break year or make or break season for them. That's for sure.
Sam, Missouri is planning its sports betting launch on December 1st. There are 6 books at this point that have received licenses, and now Fanatics has joined the fold, partnering up with Boyd Gaming. How large could this grow? I mean, reading from, LSR, obviously, as many as 14 online brands could ultimately find their way into the market as, a remaining key holder. I mean, what do you think this looks like for Missouri ultimately?
Yeah, there's 6 sports books. So Fanatics being the latest one to secure a partnership. You got BetMGM, you got DraftKings, you got Circa, which was a surprise entrance there, and FanDuel as well. So there's still some spots open. We're still waiting on the Caesars of the world, potentially ESPN Bet as well, I would expect would join. But after that, it's kind of slim pickings. There's not a lot of other sports books out there. And again, to get one of these partnerships to get into the state, you have to agree to a deal with one of the state's casinos and one of the state's major sports teams. And with the news that Fanatics is now partnering with Boyd Gaming, which was only allowed because FanDuel got rid of that partnership, there's really not many casinos left or many teams left for a Caesars or, a ESPN Bet to get a part of. So I imagine it's not going to be the full picture, the full 14.
Sam McQuillan covers sports business news for Legal Sports Report. He is on Twitter at Sam_McQuillan. Check him out there if for no other reason than to see the disparity between what you're looking at now and that avatar. Check out that headshot. Sam, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Adam.
NFL's heaviest player in history cut by Tampa. His name was Desmond Watson. Did you see any the highlights? His highlights were walking up and down the field as opposed to doing gassers, and that's how he was supposed to lose weight, Joe. How about that?
They really tried to get the guy. I mean, they really did. They put a lot of energy and effort trying to get this guy underweight and athletic enough to make a difference, but he just couldn't do it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That number last year was a loser, comfortably. Jeremiah Smith in the regular season had 934 receiving yards, 10 regular season touchdowns. He had a phenomenal college football playoff, despite only having 1 catch for 3 yards against Texas. That is how good he was in those other 3 games.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Netflix is back in a big way. They get Home Run Derby. What else is in store?
Yeah, Craig, we told you they had a great shot at it, and if they do. Now, the deal's not done yet because there's some last-minute things. However, if the deal is done, Netflix gets Home Run Derby, Peacock and NBC get Sunday Night Baseball, and they also get the Sunday afternoon package that Peacock originally had 3 years ago, and Roku's had the last 2 years.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Basically, their whole entire year is going to come down to the Ohio State game. I would be surprised if they were to lose any game leading up to that. So them to go undefeated is 12-1 in the regular season. That's a regular season play. So I think that's possible to go 12-0 at 12-1. To win the Big Ten championship, I think is a 9-1 play is a good number to take because if they're in the game, we can hedge off of it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Thanks again to Sam McQuillan for hopping on from Legal Sports Report. Like I said, he joins us. We get a little bit smarter in the sports business world, finding out what is happening across the country. And what is happening is more and more spending in different states and across the board, obviously, in particular on the NFL. I would not be surprised, I don't think you would either, watching or listening, if there were a few more Packers futures bets that were placed in the wake of the Micah Parsons deal. Again, if you are just joining us and happen to miss it, maybe last night, I don't know what you could have been doing to miss this story if my phone got so many alerts, but Micah Parsons dealt away, ended the stalemate there with the Dallas Cowboys. Apparently both sides ultimately kind of had enough. Cowboys get multiple first-round picks, again, likely in the 20s, 2026 and 2027, so the next 2 years. They get a 9-year vet, 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle in Kenny Clark as well, whereas it's Parsons who goes solo the other way, becomes the highest-paid non-quarterback in the NFL at $47 million average annual value. 4-year, $188 million contract. The real money, though, is the $136 million guaranteed. And the thing that just is crazy to me, for, again, a 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, a guy who was putting up numbers in the sack department that, again, resemble that of Reggie White, the late great. It's just mind-boggling that Jerry Jones would let it get to this point. And we know we've seen it with CeeDee Lamb, we've seen it with Dak Prescott, we've seen it with Ezekiel Elliott, we've seen it with Zach Martin even, and they all got figured out. And I guess ultimately Micah Parsons, and we all saw the social media statement that he put out a couple weeks back, almost a month ago at this point, about how he wants out of Dallas and doesn't want to be there. There were a lot of people that read that looked at it, that viewed it as, posturing. They'll figure it out. His agent, after getting boxed out, Jerry Jones, they'll all come to a room, have their kumbaya moment, and again, get maybe a record-setting deal done. Now, I don't know. It would seem ultimately the easiest thing to obviously pull from this is that Jerry Jones and company did not want to pay out that dollar figure, and the report was the closest the Cowboys got was $41 million per year. So $6 million per season over a stretch of years. We're not talking $1 million. I mean, that is a considerable difference. I get it. But if you're the Cowboys, despite what you heard from Jerry Jones, if you listened or watched that 46-minute press conference that Jerry and his son Steven, the VP there in the organization, held yesterday, it was borderline laughable, themselves talking in circles about how this was going to make Dallas a better team. This is a superstar player, a generational talent, a guy who is at 26 is just entering his prime, only recently 26. He is assuming health anyway, which I know in the NFL you can't assume, but if we were to, this guy is a superstar for years and years to come. He is the reason that, again, the Packers are now sitting among the Super Bowl favorites with top 5, top 6 odds overall. The rationale that we've heard from the Cowboys was, well, you know what? Ultimately, what crushed us, because we had 3 straight 12-5 seasons before last year, obviously taking a step back. But in our last 3 playoff exits over those 3 previous years, 1 to the Packers, ironically enough, and a pair to the Niners. What dogged us in those games that Micah Parsons didn't help us with, while, by the way, having no sacks, was run defense. We couldn't stop a nosebleed. Some of those numbers, 425 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, spanning those 3 off losses. Major area of weakness. So they believe that in getting rid of Parsons, and Jerry Jones said that he thinks we're going to be a better team, not just this coming year, but better than we have ever been while we had Micah Parsons on the roster. Micah or Michael, hard to follow while Jerry Jones was talking. They believe they are going to be a better team now than we have seen during the entire Micah Parsons tenure, which is just insane. Now, I understand why some teams want to spend what would be required to try and get Micah Parsons into their program, because some organizations are not like Green Bay, where they are close enough to say, does this guy put us over the hump? We know, or believe firmly anywhere, that we are a playoff team. But do we have enough to be a contender? And that's where, obviously, Green Bay, a team like Green Bay, they have the money to spend, they have the assets, they have the ability, and now, as you are seeing, they've got the odds that show some respect. Team total, over under 10.5 wins with Jordan Love and company. To win the North, plus 165. It's not the toughest division, folks. The NFC at 6-1. The Super Bowl now at 12-1. And there are other teams that are in their company, obviously. I mean, first, if you're thinking about the North, and yes, they do leapfrog the Detroit Lions, who fall to they're at plus 190 compared to the plus 165 here for Green Bay. The Lions have question marks. We know the defense definitely wasn't great last year. Aaron Glenn obviously did parlay that into a new gig, as we know with the New York Jets, but the defense was not great. The offense was incredible, and all the key pieces return, but we don't know if it's going to look just as good with no Ben Johnson, who, of course, is still in this division, but now the head coach with the Bears and Caleb Williams and company in Chicago. And so, there is reason beyond just Micah Parsons that Green Bay is getting that level of respect. I'm still not sure I'm convinced that, this is a team that is just going to roll its way out to a division crown and 11 plus wins, but a wild card team at the very least. And obviously there's no value in betting that unless you wanted to throw it into a parlay or something like that. But just believing this team is a playoff team at the bare minimum with Micah Parsons, and then you're in the dance and you see what happens, without a doubt. Some of the other guys that are in Parsons' company salary-wise, by the way, I wouldn't say he's necessarily obliterating the field, but he's got a comfortable lead with that $47 million average annual value. Again, TJ Watt behind him at $41 million, as you see. Jamar Chase, again, we're talking not just his position, but non-QBs, 40.25. Myles Garrett, 40 plus. Hunter there for the Texans at 35.5. So, I mean, it is mostly defensive players, obviously. So it's an interesting situation. Ultimately, with Jerry Jones, and this is maybe the part that I should have led with Jerry Jones, nothing matters more than Jerry Jones. This team has not won a Super Bowl since 1995, and his meddling, his decision-making along the way has played a huge role in that futility over the last 30 years. Have they always been bad? No, of course not. They've won divisions, they've made the playoffs, but in terms of getting all the way there, I don't think we're going to see it again in Jerry Jones' lifetime. Ego has a lot to do with it, obviously, and this is just sort of the latest thorn that has you maybe feeling a little bad for Cowboys fans. A little bit.
NFL's heaviest player in history cut by Tampa. His name was Desmond Watson. Did you see any the highlights? His highlights were walking up and down the field as opposed to doing gassers, and that's how he was supposed to lose weight, Joe. How about that?
They really tried to get the guy. I mean, they really did. They put a lot of energy and effort trying to get this guy underweight and athletic enough to make a difference, but he just couldn't do it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That number last year was a loser, comfortably. Jeremiah Smith in the regular season had 934 receiving yards, 10 regular season touchdowns. He had a phenomenal college football playoff, despite only having one catch for 3 yards against Texas. That is how good he was in those other 3 games.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Netflix is back in a big way. They get Home Run Derby. What else is in store?
Yeah, Craig, we told you they had a great shot at it, and if they do. Now, the deal's not done yet because there's some last-minute things. However, if the deal is done, Netflix gets Home Run Derby, Peacock and NBC get Sunday Night Baseball, and they also get the Sunday afternoon package that Peacock originally had 3 years ago, and Roku's had the last 2 years.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Basically, their whole entire year is going to come down to the Ohio State game. I would be surprised if they were to lose any game leading up to that. So them to go undefeated is 12-1 in the regular season. That's a regular season play. So I think that's possible to go 12-0 at 12-1. To win the Big Ten championship, I think is a 9-1 play is a good number to take, because if they're in the game, we can hedge off of it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You may have heard Micah Parsons dealt from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. And here to talk even more about it, Jacob Kamaker from USA Today to help us talk through everything. And just, I don't know, are there any stones left unturned from my ranting and raving about this deal and about Jerry Jones? Jacob, welcome to the program here, NewsWire on SportsGrid. Of course, a regular, a regular contributor to the program. I guess let's start with this. I was in the camp that ultimately, and I think many people felt this way, a deal was going to get done. How blindsided were you by the trade and by the deal itself, the terms, obviously, and the contract that Parsons received on the other end?
I was surprised by the deal. I think I fell into the same camp as you, where I was saying to myself, the Cowboys are probably going to re-sign him. We've seen this before with CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott. They go down to the wire, but they eventually get the deal done. So for the trade to happen at this point, this close to the season, a week before the Cowboys make their season debut in week 1 on Thursday night against the Eagles, it is shocking from that timing standpoint. But I think if you look into what's happened with kind of the relationship between Jones and the Cowboys and Parsons here, it seems to be a little bit deteriorating in terms of we had the trade request, we had what seemed like Jones not wanting to negotiate with David Mulugheta, the agent of Micah Parsons. So it kind of turned into this long standoff, and I think ultimately both sides just decided it would be a good time to move on. I can't say that I like the deal from the Cowboys' standpoint. I know they got a couple first-round picks. Those are some lottery tickets to players that maybe could help replace Parsons. Kenny Clark, yeah, he'll help them stop the run a little bit better, which has been a weakness of theirs, but he's also going to be turning 30 in October, and he's coming off a down year by his standards, so there's not a lot to love about the deal for Dallas, especially when you just look at Micah Parsons. I mean, he and Reggie White are the only two players in NFL history to record 12-plus sacks in each of their first 4 seasons. He's a legit stud. He's a top-tier defensive end. I completely understand why the Packers paid him what they did, even after giving up a big package to get him, because talking about a 26-year-old edge rusher who's one of the best in the league, and he is going to be 30, I believe, when his contract expires. He'll be able to cash in again. So, yeah, he's the highest paid player in the league right now, but you're still getting him for less than $200 million, which is a win if you're the Packers, because unless Micah Parsons gets hurt or, like Jerry Jones said, he gets hit by a car, one of the weirder comments of this whole saga, he's going to be very good in a Packers uniform and really elevate that defense.
Yeah, I was starting to wonder if Jerry Jones would be the one driving that car the way that he was talking. Obviously, he says no animosity here in this situation. It's hard to believe that on either side, quite frankly. But Jacob, if the two of us were sitting here on the show doing this 24 hours ago and having a conversation, just previewing the NFC North, I imagine you'd be saying, all right, well, Lions are going to win this division, but, who's a threat to overtake Detroit? Well, obviously, with this trade, we have seen the odds shift, and now Green Bay is the favorite to win this division. Is that right to you?
I think it's about right, because if you look at their opponents, Chicago should be better this year with Ben Johnson coaching, but are they ready to take that next step? Probably not. Minnesota was excellent last year, has a great coach, great roster, but they have a first-year starter at quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, so we just don't know what we're going to get from him. You look at the Lions, obviously excellent team, number 1 seed in the NFC last year, but they lost both of their coordinators and their starting center, Frank Ragnow, who isn't talked about enough for being one of the best in the league. He retired, so that could impact their offensive line. So you look at the issues with all these teams and you say to yourself, hey, the Packers have a pretty good overall roster. It's one of the youngest in the league. It should only continue to get better. Now you're adding an elite edge rusher in Parsons. That defense should be much better. The big question with them is, will Jordan Love stay healthy and be able to guide them to kind of that height that they need to be at? It's possible, but he's got that thumb injury. So there's a little bit of shakiness there. But I think if you're looking for a team to back in the NFC North, I think the Packers might weirdly be the safest bet because they currently have the fewest questions around them. It's just about whether Love can be healthy, and if he's healthy, you feel pretty good about them overall.
As for the NFC East, does that place the Cowboys firmly third in the division? Maybe even fourth? What do you think?
I think third is probably fair for them. I think that Dak Prescott's going to have a little bit of a better year now that he's back and healthy. But that defense without Micah Parsons is going to be totally discombobulated. They're not going to have a lot of guys who can pressure the quarterback. So I think the Eagles, clear-cut favorites in that division. Washington, breathing down their necks a little bit, but still have some holes in their roster. And then the Giants, hey, their quarterback room did better in the preseason than I thought, but hey, I'm not willing to back them by any means. So we go with the Cowboys third, and they're more in the running with the Giants than they are with the Eagles and Commanders. Can't feel good to be a Dallas fan hearing that.
Jacob Kamenker again on Twitter at that very same name, is a trending NFL news reporter for USA Today. So, Jacob, thank you so much. We'll chat with you again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Adam. Take care.
All right, we got about a half hour more here on the program. More voices join the show as well. Go no.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Back here on NewsWire, we've got a half hour to go. Let us bring in someone you are very familiar with here on SportsGrid. Of course, none other than Joe Lisi. Joe, of course, you can get on Twitter. If you haven't, you should. It is Go for the Two. Joe, how are you, man?
Oh, doing well, Adam. We saw college football kick off on Thursday night. Great games. More action tonight. Auburn, Baylor, Colorado, Georgia Tech, and then the full slate on Saturday and Sunday. Doesn't really get better than this. College football comes full throttle ahead, and there's nothing better.
Wonderful having football back, college and pro, obviously. Look, we're not going to get to everything we want to get to. It's a short segment. We're going to do the best we can. I do want to start last night, though, because as you said, we saw some interesting games. First of all, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce taking in that Cincinnati game, which was, maybe better known as a Nebraska win. And not only that, a heavy Nebraska following there at that game. Of the 72,000 or so in attendance, the reports were it was like 65,000 Nebraska fans that were on hand and able to get a narrow victory. Didn't cover the number, 20-17. What'd you think of Matt Rule and company starting 1-0?
Typical Nebraska. Now, I know their win total is 7.5. I think the actual schedule lines up for them potentially, if they can get a run and get competent quarterback play, they could be a 9-3 football team. But we've seen them struggle in recent years coming right out of the gate. Evan Sorsby and Cincinnati is a very blue-collar, gutty team. He stepped up, almost tied the game up before the critical interception. But that was a dominant defensive effort by Nebraska in the second half. They made adjustments, and if that defense comes to play each and every week in the Big Ten, I said it, 8-4, 9-3, I think they can get over their their win total and potentially be a dark horse, maybe as an outside shot for a potential Big Ten title.
Dylan Raiola, who always gets headlines just because of the physical resemblance, and that's it, not the play, the resemblance to Patrick Mahomes, out there goes 33 of 42, not quite 300 yards, 243, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. What do we think of him in the new year?
Again, he looked poised. He took what Cincinnati gave him. I think that's the biggest thing. Earlier in the season last year, making his first career starts, he looked like he forced balls into double and triple coverage, which sometimes led to interceptions, batted balls. He took what the defense gave him and, more importantly, worked down the field. He was clean, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, that's an above-average Cincinnati defense. I know their record was 5-7 last year, but they had 5 games where they played and lost basically by 7 points or less. So this was a blue-collar team. They did what they had to do. He gets the W. And again, they could be undefeated before they have conference play in just a couple of weeks.
We saw a fair amount of chalk last night, Joe, but one area that we definitely did not. Boise State, number 25 team that felt good for a quarter. It was 7-0 after 1, and then rest of the way it was all South Florida. A 34-7 just absolute drubbing of Boise State. Is this a sign of things to come?
I think so. I think Boise State will regress. Now, I don't think a 6-6 football team, but back to potentially 8-4. A couple of things when you look at that matchup play out last night. They did have 100 yards on the ground, but a majority of those came by their quarterback, Maddox Madsen, that rushed for over 40 yards in that contest. They only averaged 3.2 yards per carry, and we saw second half adjustments by USF. The biggest thing, too, is Byron Brown is healthy. Last year, he missed 8 games for USF. They're a blue-collar team. They have been a very good underdog under Alex Golish. They caught 6.5. It went down to 4.5 before kick. The humidity was a factor. And again, the physicality on the defensive front seven for South Florida, to me, was the difference. They scored Boise State in the first 10 minutes and then got outscored 34-0 the rest of the way. That was a dominant defensive effort by USF last night.
Let's skip ahead to the weekend here because, like you said, we got some great matchups on the way. Auburn at Baylor. That one obviously is, going to be an 8 o'clock start here. It's a game that's near pick'em. I mean, pretty close anyway, inside a field goal. Auburn's a 2.5-point favorite. You got a heavy total at 57.5. Do we get a lot of points in this one? Are we going for 60 plus?
I think we do. It's one of my better bets tonight. Now, it's the first time Baylor is hosting Auburn, I believe, since 1975. I expect a sold-out atmosphere, Big 12 and SEC. Now, Baylor lost to LSU in the bowl game last year, 44-31, but they were able to move the football. I think they have the quarterback advantage, Sawyer Robertson over Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels. You look at Sawyer Robertson, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. This is a balanced offense. They ran it for $178 on the ground last year, threw for 261. And prior to the bowl loss to LSU, Baylor was one of the hottest teams in the nation. They won 6 straight by an average margin of victory of 14.8 points per game. Playing at home, I think they push tempo. I like Baylor with the points, but I think we blow through this 58.5 total tonight.
Joe, first bet I placed going into last college football season was the over on the Colorado Buffaloes. I felt real good about that team with obviously its stars and under Dion and showing all of the growth that we saw from year to year. Well, smashed, sweat-free. Not easy to, feel great about this team once you're down the Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter, once you're down your starting quarterback Shedeur Sanders. And so we're seeing Colorado here in its first game, 4.5-point dog going up against Georgia Tech. Deion Sanders, we heard from him earlier on the show, talking about the importance of roster depth. What do you think here of this first game?
I think it's interesting because you look at a team last year in Colorado, they couldn't run the football, only averaged 67 rushing yards per game, 2.4 yards per carry. And we know Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, and Shedeur are gone. But you bring in Caden Salter from Liberty. He was a 3,000-yard passer and a 1,000-yard rusher just a couple of seasons ago. I think that versatility in the RPO game for me, Adam, is the difference. And you're talking about a team in Colorado that has been battle tested, especially they've gotten better, in my opinion, on the defensive side of the ball the past couple of years. They allowed opposing offenses to only passed for 200 yards per game last year. That was down 73 yards from 2023. They're +9 in turnover margin. And the other factor as well, Georgia Tech last year, as good as they were a terrible road team on the road or on a neutral field. They were 2-5 overall and lost those games by an average margin of defeat of 9.6 points per game. There might be a lot of points in this matchup, but I like Colorado plus the points playing at home.
The game, Joe, at least on paper, is at this point 23 hours away, and that's number 1 Texas against number 3 Ohio State. We had Bill Bender on from Sporting News with us earlier. He said he expected something lower scoring. We have a total of 47.5 and lean toward Ohio State here in this one. Again, a game that is essentially a pick'em. How do you view it? Do you see it any differently?
I do. I mean, not differently from Bill. I actually like Ohio State. I think we could potentially get over the total. I think it could be contrarian to what we saw play out in the semifinal. That was a 28-14 type of game with Arch and now this unknown offense in Ohio State. What are we going to get? But I still go to the best player on the field. That's Jeremiah Smith, and I believe in Julian saying enough. There's not a lot of tape on him. He only completed 41% of his passes in limited action. I think that could be a difference. And the fact that Ohio State's been a dominant home team. Keep in mind, when you look at Texas, the loss to Ohio State and then where they got pushed to the limit by Arizona State, they only averaged 1.7 yards per rush against the Sun Devils and 2 yards per carry against Ohio State. Ohio State's front seven is loaded. They only allowed 87 rushing yards per game. I still believe Matt Patricia could get this team and unit to play up and run support, put the pressure on Arch. I think they win a high-scoring game. Could be like 34-31. Now a dog. I'll take the points with Ohio State outright.
Joe, we got about 30 seconds, but Monday night at UNC, the college coaching debut for Bill Belichick. 3.5-point dogs here in this one against TCU. Does he win his first game?
I think he does. You give him 6 months of preparation for a defensive-minded head coach. I'll take that. And they're playing at home, Adam. How can you not?
I'm with you, man. I like it. I don't know if it's my fandom, my New England bias that is cheering it on, but I just love the story, too. Could be the talk of the town come Tuesday. Joe Lisi from right here on SportsGrid on Twitter at GoFrom2. Thank you, Joe.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
been almost wire to wire news, or wire to wire football, I should say, here on NewsWire, because 'tis the season. College football has kicked off. We got so many games this weekend, and obviously the NFL is right around the corner, less than 1 week away from starting off that season, 6 days to be exact. And here to help us talk through some NFL, maybe even a little bit of college, because I know he went to Ohio State, and we got a pretty big game on the way against Texas this weekend. Pepper Johnson, a 5-time Super Bowl champion, couple of rings as a player, few rings as a coach. Great to have you here on the program, Pepper.
Thank you, Adam. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
All right, so listen, of course, look, you played in the league for a while. I mean, you had a good long dozen-year career. You played for the Giants, the Browns, the Lions, the Jets. You coached a number of years as well for multiple teams and leagues, but, most notably to me, and maybe most successfully for you with those 3 Super Bowl rings, right here in my back of the woods, I'm a Patriots guy. And so you were a coach on that staff for more than a decade under Bill Belichick. We'll talk about him and North Carolina, don't you worry. But I want your thoughts here going into this year for the New England Patriots, and a guy that was, you presided over, was on your roster for much of that time. Mike Vrabel, obviously an experienced NFL head coach, but now a first-time head coach in New England. There's a lot of hype surrounding this team going into the new year. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting big things. Vrabel is the type of guy that he can get right to the point, and you need a head coach that the players would love to work for, by all means. And when they want to showcase, want to work for a certain head coach, it brings a little extra to the table. And if you adding the talent that you have, I think the league is very balanced in talent. So that little edge of wanting to work for the guy and do a little extra, you're going to find some guys that people will say are playing above themselves, and you're going to have some guys that's doing some of the things that's expected. But he goes and win a Super Bowl this year. I would say I didn't see that one coming, but happy for him. But having a respectable year, I'm quite sure he will, especially after I heard the news about him getting into a little melee in training camp.
Yeah.
With
coming up bloodied, bottom of the pile.
Yeah. Hey, I told some other friends, and I sent Vrabel a text, but no, I never got involved in any fights. I know the guys knew I was, I supported them, and they liked working for me, but I don't know if I would have dove in and tried to separate anybody, because as a player, I never wanted anybody to try to stop me from fighting. So even though I never had a fight on the football.
Yeah, I mean, you're very familiar, obviously, with expectations in New England. Not that they are now what they were under Bill Belichick, obviously, but still, the fan base, and the Kraft family, and the culture around here, and what everyone wants to see. They want to see winners. Gerard Mayo last year, great guy, just unfortunately was in over his head in the position. And so the team, it really struggled, had 3 legitimate wins and the throwaway win there in week 17 or week 18, game 17 against the Bills. And so as we look toward this year, I mean, there are people that look at an over-under of 8.5 wins, say, yeah, over 9, maybe 10. They could be a playoff team. Not going to win the division, but wild card, absolutely. Are we putting too much on Mike Vrabel's shoulders, even with Drake May, knowing that the rest of the roster isn't great?
No, once again, if Vrabel is not already thinking this, then I hope you hear this interview. Hey, get them while they're not looking. Sneak up on some people. The unexpected is a mug. So if the rest of the league is taking them for granted and thinking that they're a doormat, then you go and you punch those guys in the mouth, and you make sure your team understand that that's what we're going to do. That's what we set out to do each and every week, and keep it consistent. I would like to think that the winning that he had, which I know he have in him, from Ohio State, the winning that he had, and he was, he was there, and a strong reason why we won, and why we started off in New England winning championships. And let me take a little quick break and say, just add Pepper. First Super Bowl with the Giants, you added Pepper. First year Super Bowl win with the Patriots, you added Pepper. So I like to play on my own name. People,
yeah. Well, the New England Patriots this year could use a little pepper. I don't know what you're up to.
Yeah.
If you're busy, you want to make a trip to Foxborough. But hey, so Bill Belichick, again, you know him incredibly well. Obviously worked with him for a long time. He is famous for silencing noise and limiting distractions and on and on. Well, he's invited quite a few into his life here in recent months, obviously, in this transition to college with his girlfriend and all of that. I won't ask you about everything that has happened off the field, but I'm sure you're eager to see what happens on the field. What does this look like in North Carolina this season, starting off Monday night against TCU?
Well, you know what? It's kind of this. It's kind of a different realm. I don't want to say people would take him lightly, but you're going to get some of the players, in college say, we don't care. That's still North Carolina. We're going to go over there and dish rag them, But Coach Belichick brings kind of an intimidating factor on that other sideline for that coach. And I know from working with him, he loves to have those games where he's coaching against the other guy on the sideline. He likes those. When the players go out there and his players just go out and beat up on the other team, that's a good victory, fine and dandy. But he didn't get to showcase himself. But when he gets into a coaching strategy against the other coach.
Pepper Johnson, thank you so much.
NFL's heaviest player in history cut by Tampa. His name was Desmond Watson. Did you see any the highlights? His highlights were walking up and down the field as opposed to doing gassers, and that's how he was supposed to lose weight, Joe. How about that?
They really tried to get the guy. I mean, they really did. They put a lot of energy and effort trying to get this guy underweight and athletic enough to make a difference, but he just couldn't do it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That number last year was a loser, comfortably. Jeremiah Smith in the regular season had 934 receiving yards, 10 regular season touchdowns. He had a phenomenal, and I mean a phenomenal, college football playoff, despite only having one catch for 3 yards against Texas. That is how good he was in those other 3 games.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Netflix is back in a big way. They get Home Run Derby. What else is in store?
Yeah, Craig, we told you they had a great shot at it, and if they do. Now, the deal's not done yet because there's some last-minute things. However, if the deal is done, Netflix gets Home Run Derby, Peacock and NBC get Sunday Night Baseball, and they also get the Sunday afternoon package that Peacock originally had 3 years ago, and Roku's had the last 2 years.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Basically, their whole entire year is going to come down to the Ohio State game. I would be surprised if they were to lose any game leading up to that. So them to go undefeated is 12-1 in the regular season. That's a regular season play. So I think that's possible to go 12-0 at 12-1. To win the Big Ten championship, I think is a 9-1 play is a good number to take, because if they're in the game, we can hedge off of it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pepper Johnson, awesome. Great to chat with him. Of course, the 5-time Super Bowl champion, multiple rings as a player with the Giants, 3 as a coach, as a member of Bill Belichick's staff there in New England. Tons of fun catching up with Pepper, and obviously he's got many thoughts there on Belichick going into the new season. Didn't have time to get to Ohio State, but that's okay. Touched on a lot of good stuff, including expectations for New England this coming year under Mike Vrabel, who he once coached there for the Pats for many years. Let's get to SportsGrid's NewsWire's Last Licks. Look, I think it has to start with, I'm sorry, Dallas fans. I really am. I'm trying to empathize with you. I certainly feel for you. First, Luka Doncic, now Micah Parsons, a couple of superstars at 26 years of age, and ownership in your particular teams decided you were better off going forward without those guys entering their prime years. Now, I know Nico Harrison in Dallas has tried to tell us more recently that landing Cooper Flagg with the number 1 overall pick was all part of the plan. You can't even say it with a straight face. You lucked out. So maybe you're feeling all right about the Mavericks, but the Cowboys, it's going to be a little rough going forward here without Micah Parsons. I really do not see a universe where this makes you a better team in the years to come. I think Green Bay is going to win this trade rather dramatically, unless, thinking back to the Herschel Walker trade so many years ago, you find a way to do something with those draft picks. You're going to have a couple of firsts on the way, obviously. You could, as Jerry alluded to, potentially deal something to get something sooner, or you use them. But if you use them, you better get some Pro Bowlers, some All-Pros, some guys that can come in on the cheaper money, that rookie contract money, and make some noise for you. Because if you don't, it's going to be a trade people are going to be talking about for decades to come. Meanwhile, our last lick number 2 here, these new rivalry uniforms. Have you seen these? Rhetorical, I know you can't answer me, but these new rivalry uniforms that the NFL has introduced. First we had, not first even, but like the color rush, right? All these neon uniforms. Well, these are just absolutely atrocious. You can see some examples of them. Hopefully we have something here to show you. I can tell you firsthand, the ones in New England, the Patriots, there are some of them, by the way. Maybe we can pull them up, show you a little bit bigger, but some of the colors, it just doesn't work. I mean, look, could you look at these uniforms truly and identify which goes with which team without looking for a logo anyway? I mean, you could maybe kind of guess your way through some of it, but like it looks like the Rams in the top right corner, bottom left, maybe that's the Colts, perhaps the Cardinals up second to the right. It's all, I don't want to have to guess. I don't have to watch my team on the field and wonder which team it is. It's stupid. It's a money grab on the part of the league and all of these teams to infiltrate the pro shops with more and more jerseys that fans will delusionally come in and buy because they'll say they're hot, they're fire, they're incredible, gotta have them, I'll pay anything, here's my wallet, give me back how much you think I should have. Awful. These are terrible jerseys. I don't support them in any way, shape, or form. In what way are they rivalry jerseys, by the way? None of the rivalry jerseys are throwback jerseys. Give me an old uniform. Give me a jersey from the 80s, the 70s, the 90s. Give me something that you've moved on from, and we can get a throwback that way for a week or two during the season. I would personally love to see the bright red uniform, Pat Patriot, white helmet, old logo, all instead of the flying Elvis. Let's do it. Rivalries. Not whatever junk that is. Anyway, how about this promotion? You got to get creative here. And Tucker Kraft, yes, Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers, or rather the Packers, is doing just that. The tight end in fantasy football, you can score $25,000 in Big Ring Cheese, the Golden Championship Bowl, free mac and cheese, and more in this partnership, this contest here. You can see it on the screen, the ultimate bragging rights. You get all of that I just outlined. I guess that ring, which has a cute little fraction of a noodle on the top of it, obviously all embezzled and probably some cheap fake gold, something that you would get out of a 25-cent machine outside a restaurant. I don't know. I don't look, if it's going to make him money, which clearly it's doing, I don't see the point of it, however. But hey, there's always money to be had. There's always money in the banana stand, if you get that reference. But everyone who was part of this program, all the great guests, obviously Frank and Luke and John, Anthony behind the scenes as well. It's been a fun week here on SportsGrid on NewsWire. I'm going to be back with you throughout the weekend and into Labor Day. We're going to have tons of college football talk, NFL previews, miss none of it. I'm Adam Kaufman. We'll talk to you soon.